Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the New York Sports Take. This is episode number 11. I am your host, Matt O'Connor, on a beautiful Wednesday morning here from a common-like area in Dayton, Ohio, riding solo today. No co-host for episode number 11. Should be rather brief, just going to run down on a few New York sports storylines, headlines, everything that's gone down pretty much since we recorded ahead of Jets Patriots with special guest Jake Rigo last Thursday. A tough loss for the Giants on Sunday. They hung in, they battled, they lost a game in which they played another game like they have throughout all season long with their previous head coach, Brian Daboll, carrying the lead late into the fourth quarter and then relinquishing it and losing. Maybe not as big as a collapse as we've seen from some of the Brian Daboll losses, but still nonetheless blowing a fourth quarter lead and ending the game in pretty dire fashion on a Jalen Hyatt route that was just not completed. Jameis thought he would be there. It looked bad on Jameis's part, bad interception to end the game, but it was really on Jalen Hyatt. What else would you expect from the day three bust of the Giants? We're going to get into that a little bit later, as well as some other dramatic things happening with the Giants and injured Cam Skatteboo running around, picking fights on Monday Night Raw, WWE. What does that mean? Big deal, not so much of a big deal, as well as Abdul Carter in attendance, who has been in the headlines for having a red light therapy session or something and missing a meeting. So we're going to talk about that. Maybe we will talk a little bit of Knicks. We're going to talk Jets too, the quarterback change that was made. But got to lead things off with the baseball news, of course. Trent Grisham has accepted the 1-year, $22 million qualifying offer, shunning free agency following what was a career year for him. I'll start off by saying this for Trent Grisham. Here's a guy, career fourth outfielder. He was the everyday center fielder primarily for his defense for a couple of years in San Diego, but a career fourth outfielder, I believe a career 215 hitter, a journeyman to some extent, spent some good time in San Diego and Milwaukee as well, where he had the infamous error in 2019 against the Nationals, who go on to win the World Series. But Trent kind of bounced around, the throwing in the Juan Soto deal, a very unspectacular hitter, especially average-wise, maybe with a little profile, with a little bit of pop, and just a guy who plays excellent Gold Glove defense, and really that's how he earns a spot on a major league roster. And he comes out, has around an 850 OPS this year, pops 34 home runs, did a lot of things really, really well. You see something that he talked about all year, the more consistent at-bats, something that definitely paid dividends for him. Really showed out this year, had a great year, and you love to see it. I mean, these guys following the major leagues, I heard John Boy say it, I won't say thought this myself, but a lot of these guys, they hit after baseball's over. They go on to live very, very long lives and family down the line and whatever, so good for a guy like this that's probably gone around making $4 or $5 million at most. Spent probably a lot of years making the major league minimum. He has a great year, has a big burst, and now he banks $22 million. That's more money by far than he's accumulated over the course of his whole career. Good for the guy. He does deserve it to some extent. I think the Athletics big board projected him 3 years around $60 million, $54 million or something like that. So in terms of value, he's worth around that money, maybe a slight bit of an overpay. But good for Trent. 34 home runs this season for the Yankees, like I said. A big presence throughout the regular season. So I just wanted to start off by acknowledging that he had a great year. I love the stash. Obviously, I had one. The no batting gloves. The defense that he put, the aura and the effortlessness that he displays when he's catching a ball in the outfield, I think that's appealing. The sunglasses, the no batting. I love Trent. I love his swagger. I was actually really happy when nobody was talking about him and he was part of the obviously Juan Soto deal. Was the headliner. More excited about that, but I was like, hey, we picked up Trent Grisham. Just always like a random favorite random player of mine that we end up signing. But even with him finally breaking out, and as happy as I was for him to be able to do that, financially, I have to say I don't really love the QO. I don't love him taking the offer. I don't like the way that this is, not potentially, but likely going to hamstring what the Yankees are able to do financially throughout the rest of free agency. I mean, that's kind of just the facts of it, because Hal Steinbrenner's a guy who's come out and he's publicly said that he wants to keep the payroll under $300 million. And right now, with Trent picking up the option, it's currently sitting around $280 million. So with that being said, financial flexibility now throughout the rest of the offseason, we're going to have to get creative. Like, that's just the way it is. This probably eliminates any chance of going out and getting the best position player in free agency in a guy in Kyle Tucker. Probably eliminates him from the realm. I mean, you're looking at paying Giancarlo, Judge, Cole, all these guys, all these high salary guys that are currently part of the payroll. And now you add Trent. I think he's the fifth highest paid player at $22.5 million. Payroll sitting at $280 right now. Are the Yankees going to add and probably add their third most expensive player to this payroll if they want to stay under $300? That's just not possible. So it does hamstring in that regard. There's no doubt about it. I think Cashman did say the intent is to still bring back Bellinger, even with this happening. The outfield market is pretty thin overall, as Cashman did say. But his intent is still bring back Bellinger. And if they do that, then where do they go from there? I mean, if that's the case, then they're sitting right there already at that threshold at $300 million. And this is the same team, which I just don't want to think Yankee fans want to see. So that's just my general thoughts on the whole thing. We're going to have a more extended show, probably come out on Friday. We're going to talk a lot of shop about MLB free agency. We're going to get Andrew Huber's opinion on this whole thing and how he sees it playing out. I'll talk more. You know, the thing with it is, I really do like Trent. I have such mixed feelings about this, but I don't think he's a leadoff hitter. He showed that he's a really tough time doing what the Yankees as an organization have a difficult time doing, and that's hit really, really elite level stuff, pitching. And he's a little bit of boomer bust. I mean, we're talking about a guy, even in a career year, that hit below 240. So those are just things that the departments that the Yankees are already struggling in enough. And I just think he sort of adds to the pain in that sense. I'm very skeptical on the move. I don't think he's a leadoff guy, especially in the postseason. He showed that. He strikes out too much. Can't really hit the top level pitching. Great, he's lefty, beats up on bad pitching. We're already laden with lefties 1 through 9. We've already got enough guys that beat up bad pitching. So to give the guy $22 million in a career year that does those things and doesn't really stand out or help this team in a different way, that's kind of where I am not so thrilled with the move. But again, he did. We won 94 games this regular season, and he had a lot to do with that. I mean, he hit 34 home runs. That's a lot of home runs, and he played pretty much Gold Glove caliber center field. I know the advanced metrics were actually a little bit down on him as an outfielder this year, but if you watch Trent Grisham play every day, I think throughout his career, if you take the big sample size, he's an excellent center fielder. And even last year, when those advanced numbers were down, you watch him take the field, you feel confident in his ability to play center field on a daily basis. So that's the news with Trent. Like I said, we'll probably get a little bit more into free agency and Andrew Huber and another special guest coming on. Stay tuned for that on a show later this week. All right, at this point in time, let's transition to a little bit of the Giants drama that has taken place over the past couple of days. They lost the game on Sunday to Green Bay, which I did mention a little bit in the open, 27-20, and then a little bit of fallout the following day. Obviously, Abdul Carter had sat the first series, the first 6 plays of that game, because apparently he missed a walkthrough leading up to the game. Carter reportedly fell asleep in a team facility at the time of the walkthrough. Now they're saying that he was getting red light therapy or something like that. He came out on Twitter and he responded to the whole thing saying he didn't fall asleep, he was just getting treatment. But apparently he did fall asleep, and he's done that multiple times throughout the year. So there are all these different sources saying different things as to what happened leading up to this whole thing. You know, Kafka said after the game that he played well, and he responded, and he showed up, and he put pressure on him. But he did not play well. I believe he only had 2 QB pressures, and didn't really make his presence known. Didn't really put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and it's kind of been a trend for him all year, unfortunately. I understand he's had 2.5 sacks taken away by penalties, but half a sack in his first 11 games. The lack of box score production is a little bit jarring to me. I know, I guess 35 pressures, which is like 26th in the NFL. So there are some things there that Abdul Carter supporters, I don't want to say apologists, he's been terrible, can lean into, can latch onto, can say that he's done well. But Abdul Carter, in large part, has had a frustrating season, and he hasn't been all that great overall. And it's a bigger issue with the whole defensive line, which I think they rank like 26th in pressures altogether on the season. So it's a bigger issue in that regard. But yeah, it is a little frustrating for a rookie, a guy that's in his rookie year, that has all these expectations, that we're all hearing going into the draft has this gold jacket potential, this otherworldly guy who is day one going to make this enormous impact, and he's got half a sack through 11 games. Sure, he gets close, but I watched the Jets get close against the Patriots a million times on Thursday. You know what? They only brought Drake May down once, and he diced us up, and it led to him dicing our depleted secondary. Like, getting close is great, but half a sack, 11 games for a guy that going into this draft everybody made out to be, day one Myles Garrett. Like, I'm a little bit disappointed. And then to hear this news coupled with it, and we're going to get into the Skatteboo stuff, which I think has just been way blown out of proportion altogether. But yeah, it's disappointing to hear. And then to hear that, I don't know if this part is true, but yes, he was definitely asleep in this week's meetings, and it had been happening pretty much throughout the entire season with Brian Daboll prior to this. That just goes to show, and we didn't really do much on the Brian Daboll firing and whatever, but the dysfunction, the ineptitude, the pure ignorance going on within the organization under the watch of Brian Daboll, and that's a whole nother separate issue. So good for Mike Kafka, who comes in here on day one, says we're going to make these changes, and immediately reprimands Abdul Carter for not GAFing, essentially. So I'm on board with that from Mike Kafka, probably the right thing to do. I hear other people say, oh, no, it should have been more than just 6 plays, but you're already without Kayvon Thibodeau in that game. You probably are going to need Abdul Carter the rest of the way. Felt like a fair punishment for the crime, and it's kind of sad that that you have to fire a coach mid-season for being the head of all these double-digit fourth-quarter collapses, and then on top of it, he's not even punishing the rookie for falling asleep in meetings, and then the interim coach comes in week 1 and immediately reprimands him. That is just pure dysfunction. That is the Giants organization in a nutshell this year, and added to the list of things Brian Daboll has immensely failed in, and all this fallout with him since his firing is just like completely and utterly a disgrace. As far as the game goes, listen, Jameis had his ups and downs in this one. I'm not going to just say he played a great game. I think he threw 4 turnover-worthy, interception-worthy balls to the Packers. They only came away with one of them on the the final play of the game there, the crosser to Hyatt that he failed to finish the route in the back of the end zone. But yeah, 4 turnovers. If they haul in a couple more of those, the Giants probably don't have a fourth quarter lead. This is probably not a one-score game when it's all said and done. He also did some things well, and the Giants ran the ball well. I'll give my flowers to the offensive line in a second. I thought they've surprised a lot of people this year. They've looked really good, and they did some good things, particularly in this game last Sunday. But he did some nice things, Jameis. I thought, considering that the game, that they couldn't do what they were able to typically do with Jackson Dart and get the ball out, get quarterback runs going, get QB scrambles going. They put up 20 points. They had a fourth quarter lead, and they did it through a traditional run game and a pass game with essentially no weapons. Jameis had some nice throws. He put the ball right in a few guys' numbers throughout the day multiple times, and it was kind of what you think you're getting out of Jameis Winston. You're going to score some points. There's going to be some fun, exciting flashes of offense throughout the game. The commitment to the run I thought was good, and then you're going to get some turnover-worthy throws. So good game planning on that end. As far as Kafka goes, so some bad challenges in the first half there. He challenges a play that had just zero chance of getting overturned. And then he's gun shy because a few plays later in the first half, Wan'Dale Robinson clearly catches a ball that they end up not challenging probably because Kafka's gun shy because he just missed a challenge before that in hand. So bad on that part, but I did appreciate the commitment to the run from Kafka. Seemed like they came out with a plan. They score on the first drive of the game there. 38 carries for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns. It only falls for 3.7 yards per carry average. Not really overly impressive on that end, but you like the commitment to the run, and it worked. Tyrod Taylor had a pretty nice game, a guy that really hasn't stepped up big time in the place of Cam Skatteboo this year. Didn't really have a bad game. So you like what they did that, and the offensive line really manned down the fort and allowed Tracy to hit those holes, hit those gaps. I thought they were really good overall and pushing piles too. The yards after catch, I think on one of Tracy's touchdowns, they just manned him in there. Service Academy style. They look really good. John Runyon's playing well. John Michael Schmitz is holding his ground over there at the center position. Listen, man, this offensive line, which for both New York football teams has plagued them for pretty much my entire lifetime and has been so bad, they haven't been bad this year at all. As a unit, they really don't have it. I was reading this from Dan Duggan in The Athletic the other day. The most important thing, and the thing that's allowing them to be an above-average offensive line this year is, A, the health of Andrew Thomas, which you look at the stark contrast the Giants gives when this guy's on the field versus when he's not on the field. It is just night and day throughout pretty much his entire career. It's one of the most abysmal offensive fronts in football without him on the field versus they're like an above-average team when he plays an above-average offensive line. So his health has been a huge difference maker. But there's no weak links, too. The offensive line is a weak link, as Dan Duggan said in this article. The offensive line is a weak link group. One really below-average player, one guy that grades out horribly and is not doing his job, can really drag down the entire unit. And there are no guys right now on that front. There's some average guys and a little bit below average. Schmitz, like I said, he's holding his own, but he's not really a good center particularly. But there's no weak links. There are no guys on that front that are dragging them down. And it's been a big part of the success. And PFF grades, they don't always, especially in terms of offensive line grading, can be a little bit hard to quantify, are not always paint the most accurate picture. But I do think that there is some merit in the fact that they ranked the 30th offensive line in 2023 versus 11th right now entering Week 11. And it's been a big part of Dart's success in the design QB run game. And even last week with sticking to the ground game, being committed to the carry, 38 runs. Offensive line was good. They've been steady and ranked. Not bad at all. Of all the things that have gone wrong for them this year at 2-9, if there's really one thing to take away on a positive side of things, it's probably that O-line. Tough loss for them. Schedule doesn't really get any easier, sitting at 2-9. Just really a State of the Union episode. Wanted to bring that up, but we'll get a little bit more in depth into that on the next episode. Especially we have some giant guys coming on. We'll get their take on the whole Cam Skatteboo saga and everything that's going on with that. See what they make of it and if it's a big deal. I'll just say this about that real quick. It really isn't. Okay. The guy shows up on Monday Night Raw. He's in this sort of stable where he's unable to get hurt and pushed around anyway. I don't really, I'm sorry, I just don't see, I think it's being blown out of proportion with, oh my gosh, risking injury. We just saw you shatter your ankle, bro. You're on one leg. How are you pushing guys around? And first of all, it's WWE. These guys they push you around in a certain way. This is all scripted. This is all planned. It's not a big deal. But like I said, we'll get into that next time. Quickly, let's hit on the Jets. 2-8 now. I won't even really say anything regarding the loss to the Patriots. They fought in some ways. They kept it close. It was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Sort of just disappointed on the way that they rolled over and died, especially when we were down a touchdown, trying to go down the field, give ourselves an opportunity to tie the game in on the first play. Josh Myers, who had a really bad game overall, with the bad snap, fumble recovered by New England. They get a field goal that pretty much ices it. 27-16 final up in Foxborough. Listen, man, the defense, I've heard some people say the defense fought. Defense was terrible in that game. Drake met, I said 27-16. Final was 27-14. Defense got carved up by Drake May. I thought Dylan Gabriel obviously masked up a lot of no 2 out of your 3 best defensive players in that win against the Browns when the pass rush was able to get home against Dylan Gabriel 6 times, which made it easier on the secondary in general. We obviously had A.Z. Thomas for a lot of that game. But then no Sauce in that game, all the receiving threats that the Patriots pose on you. It did really show on Thursday night. It was pretty bad. No A.Z. Thomas either. Just a completely banged up secondary that got diced up by Diggs. Diggs had a big game. I think he was over 100 yards. Matt Collins was just gashing us over the middle all game long. Brownlee had a few stupid penalties. Penalty in the beginning of the game. There was one particular play, I think in the second quarter or third quarter out of the gates, Patriots pick up like a 12-15 yard pass. The guy falls to the ground. Brownlee fails to tap him on the ground for the tackle, and wherever he gets up, he gets another 10 yards. Couple bad penalties from Brownlee in that game. Bad effort awareness play on him. He wasn't great against Cleveland, but it was such a banged up secondary. It's hard to really make anything of it. He's playing out of position. No A.Z. Thomas, so really, really digging in the bottom of the barrel in terms of depth there. And it was just an ugly game defensively. Offensively, it's amazing that the Jets put up 14 points with the quarterback play that they're getting right now. Justin Fields is finally benched. He's awful. He's poops. He stinks. What more can you say about him? His internal clock hasn't improved whatsoever. His footwork is a mess. His processing just keeps getting worse. And it is just such a mental catastrophe for him right now. I don't know where this guy goes, his career goes from here at this point in time. All I know is that if you want to give these guys a chance, he cannot be the quarterback anymore. And he's not. He's finally being benched. We're last in passing yards per game right now at right around 140. 26th in passing touchdowns at 11th. 29th in EPA per dropback right now. It's just such a mess. We still owe the guy $22 million. If you cut him pre-June 1, it's $22 million dead cap hit. Still paying Rodgers $35 million, so you're looking at $57 million in dead cap hit if you let both of these guys go. But it might be the right move at this point in time. I don't know if you can. What I really was measuring as far as Fields goes the rest of the way here was if he could be a viable backup quarterback option, either for a rookie that you bring in or if you want to bring in a veteran. But at this point in time, everything that he's shown us, zero improvement whatsoever, no drop back ability passing game. He can't. I'm not going to lament the Jets for taking a flyer on this guy because of the skill set that he brings to the table and wanting to see what he has on a team-friendly deal that's easy to get out of. I'm not going to rip the Jets for it. I'm really not. And other people will, because they say, all the signs were there in Chicago and Pittsburgh. Yeah, maybe they were, but what about the signs that he showed at Ohio State? What about some of the positive signs that he showed in his 4-2 start with the Steelers last year? So it's hard to incarcerate the Jets for doing it, but clearly this guy's made no strides whatsoever behind a pretty good offensive line too. I understand the limited weapons, but still, he just ain't it. You don't have to be a film guru to see it. We all know it. He's done. He's cooked. He's washed. We're moving on. Tyrod Taylor's a starter against Baltimore, so we see what we have in these receivers and A.D. Mitchell, who also had a rough game against New England, and we go from there. At this point in time, that's pretty much all I have. Like I said, very short episode, just to State of the Union, run down some things. I want to thank you all for listening to this edition. We will have a more extended version later this week with Andrew Huber and another special guest, Talk Giants, Talk Jets. Do a little Week 11, I guess. Oh my gosh, it's flying by. Week 11 NFL preview show. Talk a little bit more about MLB free agency, maybe get into some Knicks. Thanks for listening on this midweek edition of the pod. We'll see you next time right here on the New York Sports Take.